Ultimately, it's been shown that the most powerful thing you can do to be resilient is to have a good support system. But the irony is that if you can't self-regulate, you're a bummer to be with and you don't have good relationships. So you need to be able to self-regulate. And then people want to befriend you. Cognitive reshaping. When you're happy, when you're resilient, when you're angry, when you're sad, different parts of the brain fire. And that happens whether you want it to or not. So the thing is, our brains are firing in a negative way sometimes because perhaps we start out the day with a real negative attitude like, oh my God, I have such a day in front of me, I have all this schlepping to do or all this work to do, or I can't stand when my bags look terrible today. You know, whatever it is, you start out the day with a negative thought. What you're doing is firing a certain part of the brain. So just like you have the capacity to look at things in that negative way, you also have the capacity to look at things in a more positive way. And that is something you could definitely strengthen. And by the end of tonight, you'll know how to strengthen that and do that on a daily basis. It's good to think, is it really going to be that bad? Could I just take it hour by hour and maybe there'll be some good parts to the day and maybe this is going to not be? You know, why should I start out the day? And and I look fabulous, and tell yourself something good and, you know, not so bad for being however old you might be and whatever it is, you know, and reframing the negative. And you could reframe the negative by choosing to reframe it. Now, another way to reshape the brain is more from a physiological perspective, looking at some of the ways that we're just in our skin. By the way we breathe, all day long we're breathing, so we could be doing it for our best interest or not. So it really pays to learn how to do it. Since we have to do it as long as we live, we may as well do it so that we're really getting the optimal results.
I mean, a lot of the things we discussed seem very holistic and very right within our reach, whether it's the breathing, the meditation, which is very positive. But you didn't discuss at all, if people are feeling anxious or depressed, what would the role of pharmacology or therapy be in getting you to a point where to help you be more resilient?
Well, okay, good question. The role of pharmacology, of psychopharmacology, is very powerful. I believe in it. I'm into it. I think it's a wonderful, you know, adjunct to whatever work that we're doing in many cases. I also think that many people in our culture are over-medicated, and that many people would do well. Well, let me backtrack. Medication for anxiety and depression alone is an incomplete treatment modality. It's not a complete way of treating a person. If you're not coupling that with some other form of work, of therapy, of insight-oriented something, like why are you anxious and depressed? We know now that those are not true feeling states. It's not a good thing to be feeling that. You need to figure it out rather than just medicate it away. But I think that medication is a powerful tool. And we need to use it, but appropriately and in combination, in conjunction with other treatments. So friends, that's us in a few years, girls, emerge from mutual affection. We're not replaceable. When something happens to one of us, when we're really friends, we feel it. And we hurt for each other, and we love each other, and we take care of each other. And that really forms the fabric of our communities and the basis of our relationships. If that's not there, it's not a good friendship. You know, if that feeling of this person really matters, it's not just okay that I lose this one. In terms of building friendships, one of the things I tell people that have difficulty having friendships or building relationships is to treat it like a courtship, because sometimes it's very scary. Even with a woman calling a woman or a guy calling a guy, it could be very scary to take a risk and send an email or make a phone call like, let's get together. And it means putting your ass on the line and putting a question out there like, you want to hang out with me? And even as kids, we had that same issue. And it's still true. And it means pushing yourself to say, you know, I like you and I'd like to hang out. And sometimes you get rejected. And I'm too busy, or I don't feel the same way, and it's a drag. But every time you do it, it actually builds your self-esteem, even when you get rejected, because it's very empowering to start putting yourself out there and being willing to take risks. Take a class, doing something you love. You know, I always found that that was a great way to make friends and build a support system, is to do something that you already love. Conflict, as I was just suggesting, creates an opportunity. It's a doorway. It's an opening to resolve some conflicts and to create deeper bonds. Because if you've ever noticed, when you've had a fight with somebody and you really worked it through, and maybe you both cried, and maybe it was really heavy, you feel closer to that person. So it could be a very powerful thing, whether it's with a girlfriend or whether it's with a family member or a partner, whoever it's with. There's something very powerful about resolving conflicts. And a resolution never happens until both people are taken into consideration. If one person thinks they won, it's got to be a win-win. And the other person didn't, it's not a good scenario. It's got to be a win-win. And I just want to say something else. When all else fails, and you've tried and you've worked with a friendship and repeatedly tried to get through, you know, the message, and you've worked it and you've worked it, and it's not happening, this is a brutal thing to say, but I say, delete. You know, because sometimes it's more trouble than it is worth. And that's not a kind thing to say, it just is the truth. So you have to assess. If more often than not you feel bad after being with somebody, whoever that person is, get rid of that person or diminish your contact with that person. That is not a good person to be chilling with. You know, you want to feel uplifted. Life is short, and you want to choose, and choose well, who you're going to hang out with. Forgiveness, gratitude, and altruism are all considered to be key ingredients to happiness. So we're sort of moving into happiness. Besides relationships, those skills, learning how to forgive, learning how to be grateful, and altruistic is like the highest level, are all skills and things that really heighten our experience of happiness. The happiest people surround themselves with family and friends. They don't compete and look at what others have and try to measure up. Not that anybody really doesn't look, but that's not how they're operating. That's not where they're coming from. And they get immersed in that flow that I was talking about. What we find is the things that we're best at and strongest at, and put those things into flow every day. You know, if you have an activity that you just totally lose track of time when you're doing, that's an example of flow. And if you have that every single day in your life, whether it's tennis, whether it's sewing, whether it's working, whether it's dancing, whatever it is, you know, those things are the things you need to really incorporate into your life one way or another, whether it's work or play. And then we also, the happiest people, pursue growth, personal growth, and intimacy. So we're building ourselves internally as well as in terms of relationship, and forgive easily. And I just want to end with a quote. I got this great email from Pamela. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in an attractive and well-preserved body, but rather skidding in sideways, chocolate in one hand, wine in the other, body thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and screaming, "Woo-hoo! What a ride." So, that's it.